Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian and I am the horror show host. And today I am taking a look at the movies I watched in the month of February 2020. Now, I've already done this for January, so I'll leave a link to that video up here in the corner, and we shall get into February starting now. The first movie I watched was Gretel and Hansel. Now, this is the newest Hansel and Gretel little story that has spun its way into theaters. It's okay, it's very artistic, and doesn't make a whole lot of sense sometimes, but it was a fun watch. It has some cool imagery, great music by Rob, who also composed the music for Maniac, amongst other films. I mean, the 2012 version of Maniac. Still, this was a fun movie regardless of some of its shortcomings, such as some of the acting was meh, but some of the acting was also great. Also, the story just seemed kind of rushed, but I'd have to watch it again to give you more thoughts on it. I've only seen it one time, so yeah. I'll leave a link to the From Real to Real episode I did, which is actually pretty informative. The second movie I watched was Puppet Master. This is the 1989 first ever full moon film. Full Moon is a label that was spun off from Empire Pictures. This is run by Charles Band, and this film is a lot of fun. It's not a good movie, mind you, it's just one of those movies you can pop in and just sit back and relax and enjoy some puppet insanity. But it does get more insane in the sequels. Speaking of the sequels, the third movie I watched was Puppet Master 2. Now, this was a pretty solid sequel. It's about as good as the first. There are some shortcomings, much like in Puppet Master 1. These are not perfect movies, but they are still fun to watch. I feel this one's a little bit more fun, but there are the problems I have with it that I can forgive in some regard because the film is innocent. It's a very low budget film, but still, you can't deny some of the other shortcomings. The fourth movie I watched was Sasquatch Hunters. Now, this was a really fun movie, I have to say. It's a Bigfoot movie that had no right to be any good. But it had a chance. It was directed by a special effects whiz who worked on Titanic, amongst other things. And Sasquatch Hunters is an example of what you can do with $300,000 and effects whiz in the visual department. So this was a visual treat. Some of the effects do not hold up. Hell, they didn't even hold up in 2005, but they are sometimes actually pretty good. The fifth movie I watched was Saw 2. Now, last month in January, I watched Saw 1, and this was a pretty good sequel. Not as good as the first movie, but still, it has a lot of gruesome gore. It amps everything up, but is that a good thing? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But I still feel Saw 2 is a strong installment in this long-running series, which is coming to its 9th installment in May. The sixth movie I watched was Swamp Shark, which I will have a review for out soon. I've been putting that off for far too long. Now, Swamp Shark is a serious guilty pleasure kind of movie. It's not like the best shark movie, but it does have some good elements, namely the animatronic shark. The CG shark is not as good as the animatronic, but they still look quite barnacle-y and grimy and slimy. It's a really nice looking shark. Well, not nice, but in terms of special effects, it's nice. The characters are okay. I wish the subplots actually led to something other than just a dead end, and some of the kills are pretty cool, although they did miss some golden opportunities. The seventh movie I watched was My Bloody Valentine from 1981. Now, this was a pretty good movie. Actually, I dare say it's dang good. It's one of the better 80s slasher films from the early 80s. I think it's actually very heartfelt and has good characters and a good story and a cool setting and amazing gore. So it's a really solid slasher flick, but that's all it is, a slasher flick. With some cool kills, great characters, eerie music, atmosphere. It's a good movie. The 8th movie I watched was My Bloody Valentine, the 2009 remake of the 1981 classic. Now, I enjoy the hell out of this movie, but it has some problems. I don't like the characters as much as I like them in the original movie. Still, I think this is a love letter worth seeking out. It has some amazing kills, some okay CGI, and charm about it, a warmth, I would say, which doesn't really coincide with the original too much. The cold setting of the original felt much more naturalistic. This feels like a studio movie, which it really was. The 9th movie I watched was Planet of Dinosaurs. Now, I try to watch this movie at least once or so every month. It's like my ultimate guilty pleasure. I love this movie. I'm actually working on a novelization for it, which I had to stop to work on some other projects, and there's also a novelization by Alan J.D. McNeil, who I'm good friends with, and I will leave a link to his book, which you can buy on Amazon. It's a really cool read. I highly suggest you check it out. The 10th movie I watched was Leprechaun 2. Now, I started watching the Leprechaun movies with my family to lead into a Corpse Buddies video, which I will be doing with Dave Maggot. I've also done Corpse Buddies videos for My Bloody Valentine 1981 and 2009 with Ray and Joey from Reanimator Reviews. So in time for St. Patrick's Day, I'll have the Leprechaun series reviewed on both me and David Maggot's channel. And those movies are just ridiculous. Leprechaun 2 has a strong charm to it, and I love it for that. It isn't perfect, but I really, really enjoy the characters. They're not as good as some in the future installments, but they are a lot of fun, especially Morty. The 11th movie I watched was the first Leprechaun. Now, why am I watching these out of order? Fret not, I'm only watching the sequels minus the 8th one with my family. Leprechaun 1 and the 8th one I'm watching with my brother, because the first and the 8th one are the only two that actually connect. So, yeah. But I love Leprechaun, the original. It's got a lot of heart. Jennifer Aniston's in it. We have Warwick Davis stealing the Dane show. It's a lot of fun. But that's about it. The 12th movie I watched was Crawl. Now, this is the killer alligator movie from last year. I recently did a Corpse Buddies video on this with You and Your Horror Movies, his own Matt. And it's a lot of fun. It's a great killer gator movie. It has some great kills, but also has some lackluster ones. The alligators in question are really good looking. The music is spot on. I love a lot about this movie. But there are some shortcomings, like as in many other film that is a creature feature. It doesn't have everything perfect, but it does have a lot going for it. The 13th movie I watched was Leprechaun 3. Probably my favorite of the entire series, which I'm not alone in that thought process. It's got a lot of great characters, great setups, and amazing gore, amazing kills, amazing magic, and Leprechaun is very sinister and mean in this one, as well as hilarious. Dark humor is abound. The 14th movie I watched was The Legend of Boggy Creek. I watched the 4K restoration of this film. And my God, it's probably the best it's ever gonna look. It was supervised by Charles B. Pierce's daughter, Pamela. And such a great release. I highly, highly recommend you check this movie out. It's very eerie, it's very vintage, but it's still a lot of fun. The 15th movie I watched was Primal Rage. Now, this Bigfoot horror movie is awesome. We have Bigfoot killing people with weapons, ripping them apart, tons of gore, great cinematography, decent music. The characters are okay, the story is okay. It's not the best Bigfoot movie out there, but it is still rockin'. The 16th movie I watched was Abominable. Now, this has been called by me as my favorite Bigfoot movie. Now, watching it again, it still has a creepy nature to it, but I think it hasn't aged that well. And I realize there are better Bigfoot movies. The nostalgia part of me is like, no, this is the best one, but the critic side of me is saying, maybe? It's a really good Bigfoot movie with a cool Bigfoot, some really good kills, some decent kills, and some dumb kills. And, yeah, I'd highly recommend you check it out. The 17th movie I watched was Tremors 2. Aftershocks. Now, Tremors 2 Aftershocks is a fun movie. I do not like it as much as the first, but a lot of people seem to like it more than the first. I think it has a lot of great storyline elements, like the graboids changing into something else, and it taking place in a whole new setting. Kind of. I mean, there's not as much desert land, but it's in Mexico. I love the subtitle. The music is rockin' and goofy. It's got great characters, as always, per Tremors movie, and I just really enjoy it. It's definitely my favorite sequel of the bunch. Probably. I'd have to watch them all in a straight order and just pick it out. But, yeah. The 18th movie I watched was Maniac from 1980. Now, Maniac is a sleazy, nasty movie. Very sickening. It's got great effects by Tom Savini. Amazing effects, actually. That scene where he blows his own head up, because the head's a prop, it's just glorious. And Maniac is played by Joe Spinell. He plays the character Frank Zito with a slimy passion. He's very sweaty, very greasy. It's just a nasty movie to watch, but you gotta admire it. And the 19th and final movie I saw in the month of February 2020 was An American Werewolf in London. Now, An American Werewolf in London is a great little horror comedy directed by John Landis in his prime. So, I love this movie. It's always a toss-up between this and The Howling for me for what is the best werewolf movie of 1981. I love Wolfen, but I cannot deny it's not really a werewolf movie. And this movie, it just screams classic. The Howling is cheesy and American Werewolf is intentionally cheesy. It's just hard to choose. But I think American Werewolf in London is more well-made. But the transformation scenes are neck and neck for me. I'd have to watch them all very closely and just pick from there. In terms of what scared me more, it's definitely The Howling. But now watching An American Werewolf in London again, it's got some creepy imagery. Cannot deny that. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and Lion Brian Gatto, the horror show host. Make sure to like, comment on, as well as share this video. Like my Facebook fan page, and support me on Patreon. Even $1 a month will help keep this channel going on strong, and I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, hit that notification bell, and as always, subscribe.